Welcome, Mallika. It's so
And
lovely.
you was damn awkward. I was sitting here for like 20 seconds while she was talking Delhi-based character, and I'm like, Okay, yeah.
So wonderful. I have somehow managed to delete the notes of the questions.
Spontaneous chat.
So we will have a chat.
Yeah.
You know, Mallika, I began watching you when you started Makeup Didi, which was a long time ago, and this was, at that point, such a subversive take on femininity, on, how we look at ourselves as women. What made you come up with Makeup Didi?
So originally what made me come up with it was the idea of clients and how no matter what profession you're in, the client will never be happy. If you're in the position of a client, you will always have some grouse or some grief. And because I was in advertising and I was constantly exposed to brands and clients, and they were just never happy. Like, you could give them both your kidneys and they say, "Teesri wale nahi di," Like, it is just, there is no end to this.
Absolutely.
So that's originally where it came from. And of course the dialect and the flavor and all, because I spend a lot of time in the beauty parlor because I really enjoy it. So, I mean, you just end up observing people, right? So that's where it really came from. And whatever subversive message there was just an extension of my personality, I think. Yeah.
When did you realize Makeup Didi has become so popular?
Oh, I think I put my second video or something, and all these BuzzFeed and First Post and all the little like publications and all started writing articles about it. They said, drop everything and you need to watch this series. I think I done 2 or 3 or something, and they were getting really crazy reactions. So I kind of realized that, oh, this is something people enjoy and I should do more of it. So yeah.
You know, in India, we've always had the funny woman in popular culture. I mean, in film and in whatever, in stage. She is never the main lead or the main protagonist in any story. She is always the sidekick. Why are we so resistant to funny women?
I don't understand really, because I mean, I think I'm my happiest when I'm making others laugh, and that's when I feel like I'm at my best. But I've addressed this before, and I feel, since we've not been brought up to believe that being funny is one of the traits we must possess. And if we are being funny, then we'll be, "Acha nahi mat karo yaar, pagal hai kya? Ye to jhalli ho gayi, ye pagal ho gayi." Like, something or the other. Or in films also, it's always like that fat daughter who nobody wants to marry, which is all rubbish. Like, we all have great sex lives. It doesn't, I don't understand. It has nothing to do with how you look and what it is, and so all those things are changing. Those norms that people were following, and I always, from my end, make sure that unless it's some cameo that I cannot refuse, ki upar se call aaya hai ki karna hai. So, but I try and take up projects where I am in the center and I have a substantial role. And that, because the thing is, your weight cannot be a plot device, like every time, right? Casting can't happen just basis that. Ki, a lot of times we get calls and saying ki, "To na story ye hai ki she is fat." I'm like, that story nahi hai wo. But ये ना फैट लड़की का किरदार है. मैंने कहा अच्छा और कुछ करती है वो कि फैट ही है, क्योंकि फिर आप कहीं से भी कास्ट कर सकते हो, So we are a kind of, I think if actors take the lead and they say, no, please write better, don't bring this junk to us, it'll help. Because from my end, I always, like, if I see some nonsense there, some unnecessary joke about fat shaming that doesn't belong there and doesn't enrich the plot or the scene in any way, then I don't do it. It's not a very popular choice, but I'm okay being unpopular, it's fine. Yeah.
That's fabulous. Mallika, when you're doing something that someone else has written, often you don't have much to say in how they characterize you or how they develop your entire narrative through the story. But when you're writing your own material for your shows and for your scripts and your video, is there something that you set out to do? Because not only do you have this huge audience of young girls who completely love you, but there's a message you're putting out, and as much as I hate to say it, you entertain, but there's also that responsibility of the message that you put out. So is that something you tend to keep in mind when you're writing?
Not initially, like the first few drafts or the first few sessions or something, one always just should think aloud and think freely and whatever comes to mind. The filters come in much later. And I'm actually not in favor of the filters because nothing hampers comedy more. Like, I'm all for social change, I'm all for being conscious and aware and sensitive, but what has happened is, and we cannot deny it, is that comedy and all of this is going to take a huge hit because one person's idea of clean comedy is another person's idea of regressive rubbish. Like for me, what they show on TV, I'm like, I don't want to watch this. This is taking me back 20 years. And if someone watches what I do, they're like, this is nonsense, she's such a slut or whatever. So there is no end to this. And really, if it's a creative field, aap mat dekho na, aapko problem hai to. But don't censor something like that. So from my end, of course, according to my value system and my little moral code, my choices and all I'll add. But that said, I don't take any high ground that this ought to be superior. And I used to think like that. Of course, I do feel that we have some responsibility, like especially television channels and stuff. When you know something is a massive stigma, then don't propagate it further. Like, you really don't have to. Like, you know, I remember Tanishtha Chatterjee was called on a comedy show, and the butt of all jokes was her complexion. I'm like, this is so unnecessary. You have a guest here. Write better jokes. Like, I'm sure there are other jokes you can write.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And when you're writing comedy, there's this saying that you don't punch down, you punch up.
Yeah.
And how, as a woman, so as a woman in comedy, in a space that is so male-dominated to begin with, you don't punch down, you punch up, you have to be aware of so many nuances to whatever you're saying. And also the messages you're putting out. So, as you say, you don't put any filters when you're writing your copy initially. After you've done something, do you ever feel that maybe I could have done that differently, maybe it could have been interpreted in a way that I hadn't intended for it to be interpreted?
Not in the moment, but like any form of art, I think everything has a shelf life. Like what I may have done 3 years ago may be considered tone deaf today, right? Like people who are very well educated, very enlightened and things like that, they may have made certain creative choices basis whatever the society was accepting at that point or whatever they knew best. And today they're like Amir Khan doing Khambe Jaise Khadi Hai, for example. Absolutely. Right? That's not to say like he's a jerk, he doesn't know what he's doing, right? I mean, people change, times change. So I give myself that much grace. I may have evolved. My choices are allowed to change and I'm allowed to change.
Of course, we're all allowed to change. Yeah. And having said that, you know, when you're performing live, and when a male comic is performing live, and when the female comic is performing live, there's a leeway that we seem to give as an audience to the male comic that we do not allow the women comics. Have you faced that, and how do you counter that?
So I don't perform live that much
anymore. Yeah.
And I've not actually. I've been very fortunate that I've not, you know, worked bottom up. That I went to a lot of open mics or something. I came from another city, another zone, and just things took off. So I've also been lucky, but I haven't been exposed to what goes on in the stand-up circuit, and a lot of women who do stand-up in Mumbai especially talk about this, that like the green room talk and how they're excluded and how they're made to feel that you're not one of us and you're not a part of us, and especially when there were one or two. Like right now we have lots of women doing stand-up comedy. Like earlier when it began, there weren't those many. That said, the few times that I've gone on stage, I don't know, I think I'm just really vain. I just make sure I get all the attention. I'm not very sure. But definitely there is a problem. There is a huge problem, and we can't ignore the fact that delivery, writing, things like that also play a part, right? How you package a certain joke. Like I may say the same thing and you may say the same thing, and they might laugh at only one of us, right? So it's not just about the joke. There are various aspects. And so keeping all of that in mind, yes, there is disparity. Yes, there are other factors also, like sometimes it's possible that the man is actually better at delivering the joke. Let's not close ourselves to that. There's growth in accepting that as well. So, yeah, it works both ways.
Absolutely. And you know, internationally we've had women who are in the funny space, dominating even television writing, and all the TV shows, and they've got really good shows going on. Do you see this coming into India? We've got shows onto Netflix. We've got, I mean, we've got you guys, we've got Aditi, we've got everyone. But we haven't seen that kind of dominance that, you know, internationally women, funny women have had. Do you see this coming about?
Definitely, I do. Because when we speak to networks and networks call for meetings now, you know, they're very conscious and they're very aware that they don't want to tell the same stories anymore. And they don't want to keep doing that, you know, repeated, beaten formula again and again. And it's very obvious, and like the examples that you cited, the same examples will come from them, that we want to do this now. And they'll use those as references. And a lot of the people that I meet, all the writers are women, the producers are women. Like right now I'm developing something where both the executive producers are women and the writers also women, and and it's the four of us that meet. And so it's perfectly normal. It's not like, oh great, finally. But yeah, it's happening. Like if you see, I don't think behind the scenes we're that outnumbered. But in front of the screen, yeah, there is a problem, yeah. And of course, somebody asked Amrita that about the female quota in the kind of content that they make. I think Disney, in terms of web, they've made Girl in the City, they've made Trip, and both of their most hit shows have been like headlined by women. So there is something, and there is no man there running the show or something. So it says something. I think we can get an audience. Yeah.
And we're looking forward to something from you.
Yeah.
Writing your own show and doing it?
Yeah. Working on 2 shows and working on some other non-serious stuff at the same time. So when I moved to Bombay, it was more about how can I get everyone to know me, and how can I get everyone to laugh, and how can I make enough to survive in this ridiculously expensive city. Now those needs have kind of been fulfilled at some level. So now I'm looking at, and I've also grown a little older in those 2-3 years. So I'm looking at slightly longer format stuff, and I'm more patient. So I think that you should see that in my work also now.
Tell me, when you're doing your, when you're choosing the work you do, is there something that you would absolutely not write or not do? Is there stuff, because you know humor can be used as a tool to shock and change attitude, and sometimes you can need to be really rough with your humor to get the point across. But are there limits that you set yourself?
Yeah, there are a few limits. I mean, it's very weird because a part of me believes that, yeah, humor should be limitless and you must not censor anything and stuff like that. But personally, I won't, like if I know that me cracking this joke is going to cause more harm than good, then I'd rather not crack it. Like I'm not going to do a joke bashing Muslims. I'm not going to do a joke that makes fun of someone being really dark-skinned or someone, like just real problems that we know this can go either way and this will fuel an already like horrible prejudice that people have. I'm not going to crack a joke on it. That said, some people do it and they do it really well. But I can't get myself to, yeah.
There was a, I think it was YouTube video, or it was a series about periods that you did.
Yeah.
And this is such an important topic today because, you know, there was a whole ensemble of you doing that thing about...
Women's besties.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about it often enough, and I think you used humor brilliantly in that to really get the point across that these are issues that you need to talk about.
Yeah.
And there's no need to be coy about this stuff.
Yeah.
So do you see using humor in such a way to get the point across to young girls that, okay, this is normal, this is natural, this is what you should be talking about, and what are the other subjects you think we need to address in a similar manner?
I think every subject, mostly anything can be addressed if you package it humorously. I think that's why comedians are having a moment right now, because there's so much that needs to be said and there's so much that people don't want to hear, and the best way to serve it to them is to package it in comedy, because then it softens the blow, it makes it entertaining and all of that, and it makes you feel like, acha, gyan nahi baat rahe, hum entertain bhi kar rahe hain. You know, because people always want something in return. There's always a barter there. So I feel mostly anything can be addressed in those terms. Because personally, I don't like someone preaching at me. I don't like someone, like everyone has a different way of expressing themselves. Like Rupi Kaur might put a picture with blood-stained pajamas. That may not be my style. But that doesn't mean she's wrong or I'm right. But I feel there's a different palette. Everyone has a different palette of consuming the truth. Some people like it direct and spicy. Some people like it sweeter. That's how it
I
is.
think that's probably why they always had a court gesture to tell the king
Yeah.
the difficult stuff without, getting his head chopped off or something.
Exactly. Audience is king, guys. Yeah.
But, who makes you laugh, Mallika?
Oh my God.
Who are your funny go-to people when you want to laugh?
My sister, my parents, our family is very funny. Like, we're very irreverent. Yeah, we're all mad. So that, I mean, I like quite a few comedians also in India and abroad. It's mostly characters that make me laugh. Like, I may not like a lot of what's being done on TV, but I think one person who really deserves a lot of praises is Sunil Grover, the character that he makes. He's too funny, he's too talented, and he's an actor. He's not a clown. If you see the characters that he makes, and he's not spoken about that often in such circles, but I really feel like I love to watch. Like, if I watch a whole Vana show, I'll only watch his bits and then I'll skip the rest. So, I mean, one of the people who I don't talk about that much. And yeah, like, different people make me laugh. A lot of times, freaks on the internet make me laugh who don't intend to be comedians, but they're just weird. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't want to name them. You know who I'm talking about.
We're not taking names here.
Yeah, we don't take names. We're very politically correct.
Yes.
here.
I know the audience is itching to ask you questions, so I will not keep on hogging the mic. So, can we have questions? Hands go up. Can we have the mics out, please? You can take mine.
Hi, Mallika. Mallika, there was an incident that you had reported in the form of a video that you had with an Uber driver, I
Yes,
believe.
yes.
Am I right? It was reported a lot in the news, but then I believe you face a lot of flack for being so blunt about it. There were reports saying that you're using your popularity to send across a message in a very crude manner.
Huh.
Yes. I, for one, felt that, is it because you're a woman is why people, did not like that you were being so blunt? Did you feel that?
Quite possibly, because what happened was, I think we take to Twitter, we take to Instagram to talk about problems that we have. Because
Right.
if we have the luxury of an audience, we must use it. So there were people who were like, मैडम सारी problems आप ही के साथ होती हैं. मैंने कहा नहीं, but मेरी आवाज़ आप तक पहुँचती है सर, इसलिए आपको पता चल रहा है कि मेरे साथ क्या क्या हो रहा है. वरना सबके साथ बहुत कुछ होता है. They don't have a platform to talk about it.
I believe they had a problem with you reiterating those words. So the driver used very crude words with you,
Yeah, he did.
And when you repeated those words,
yeah.
people had a problem with that.
Of course, a lot of problem, and they like that you're just being a diva, you wanted the AC, and then he asked you to get out, and I'm like, shut up, I paid money to be there. I deserve to be treated with respect. Take your commentary elsewhere. I'm not here for this nonsense. I was going to work. I don't want this rubbish, get off the car, ki AC chala diya. Of course, the issue was much larger. The issue was about Uber not treating their drivers well, and them taking out that frustration onto the customers. But in all of that, if I am getting like screwed, then I'm more than entitled to talk about it. And the thing is, voicing an opinion or any kind of change is not a popularity contest. People will hate you.
How do you
Fine.
handle such differentiation between men and women? So when he said it, it was like, he's a driver, he's a male, perhaps he can say those words. But you can't even repeat those words. How do you, handle such negativity?
I really don't give a damn about it. The way I go about my life, like I got in touch, someone from Mumbai police called and they said कि मैम आप क्या चाहते हो? मैंने कहा मैं एक्शन चाहती हूँ. मतलब क्योंकि मैं औरत हूँ इसलिए मेरे दिल में ममता नहीं भरी हुई पागलों के लिए. So and I'm like कि please आप उसको ढूंढिए and जो होता है वो करना. So I really don't care about, the thing is you can't conform to the roles that are expected of you and you should be kind and you should be this, that, blah, 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 because fact is that nobody understands what you're experiencing more than you do. So you have you reserve the right to the best and first reaction to that. And that's fine. Like, I've never cared ki aurat ho ke tum, like there was this video, okay, I had done where there's this auntie called Hello Friends Chai Pilo, and I had done like a little version of that where I said Hello Friends something something that I don't want to say here. But there were men who got so angry because they're like, how can you say this? And I didn't abuse or anything. I just like used some like species related humor. And they were just like, how can you say this? And I was getting rape threats and all. And I was like, oh, one can get rape threats for this also. I mean, that's new. I think they just don't like ki, matlab, women have any kind of autonomy or something. It's a very weird, twisted kind of group, especially on Facebook and Twitter. Like, you don't see this species of people anywhere else.
I'd like to jump in here. I'm so sorry. Now, this very interesting thing about the words used, you know, when men use it, it is funny. But when a woman uses it, it becomes a problem.
Disgusting. You're spoiling the other women who watch you.
So how do you deal with this nanny policing that happens, you know?
I do more of that. Then I say more of those words. I block those men. Like, you have to be relentless. So the more they like, you have to own your madness a little more. That's what I do, because I genuinely try to understand, you know. Okay, but what about this is bothering you so much that you've taken out so much time to abuse me that much? Then I'm like, ठीक है, आप time pass करो तो फिर मैं भी करूँगी. And I just do what I want anyway. Because you can't please everyone, right? Especially not a bunch of people who don't want to be happy in life.
And Twitter and Facebook, I mean, social media, when you put yourself out there, you're opening yourself to relentless forms of thing anyway.
Especially like Twitter, it's a joke now. Yeah.
It's like open field.
Yeah.
Wonderful message. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi Mallika. So basically I've noticed this with a lot of people. When they crack humor that generally revolves around a slightly sensitive issue, not insulting anyone, just humor around a sensitive issue, for example, gender identity, right? And it's non-insulting, but people who if it's cracked by someone who don't belong to the community, it's taken with a lot of offense. I personally feel that
So sometimes I do stay away because I don't want that kind of controversy in my life. But if you ask me one day if I have time, I will really study it and find out ki, matlab, what is the right thing to do in such a situation, right? And I think a little education we can start with, because there's a lot of like slurs and all that we have that may be very casteist and may be very offensive to people. So we can try and find alternatives if they're not very necessary to use, I guess.
One last question, please.
Hello, ma'am. My question is like recently this year, Hannah Gadsby's special came out on Netflix, Nenit. In that she says, I'm quitting comedy because it is affecting me. So my question is like, as comedians, you put yourself out there. So like, it affects your mental health as well with all the controversies going on. Like there are comedians coming out and saying, I'm going through depression, I'm going off social media for a while. So do you think being in such a limelight is affecting you as a person? And do you sometimes feel that I wish I wasn't doing this?
I never feel that I wish I wasn't doing this. But yeah, like I don't think anybody's prepared for what it brings, right? Like a lot of celebrity suicides that you see and cases of depression, a lot of those people do comedy. And it's very twisted how the two things are related. And so many of us, including myself, we've spoken about depression and medication and things like that. And I don't know what it is. Maybe comedy is a coping mechanism, and I'm working with my therapist to find out what it is. I use it as a way to say things that I'm too nervous to say otherwise. But I think it's also social media in general. I don't think it's only comedy. I think a lot of the anxiety that we face and a lot of this depression about just being compared and never being enough, and just likes determine our self-worth. And you know that, I don't know how many of you have seen that Black Mirror episode where citizens are rating each other. It's kind of, we're not too far from that. And that's one of the hugest triggers. Like, you know, and I notice this, I have certain physical symptoms of anxiety. Like I'll be skin picking when I'm anxious. And so I know that, okay, right now I am anxious in a particular environment. But like when I go to Delhi, for instance, and there's nothing work related around me, if I go for 10 days, 2 weeks, I will have no physical symptom of anxiety. But the minute I come back into this workspace, it'll come back again. So clearly there are some triggers here, and And definitely, like I've spoken about it, Danish has, a bunch of other people have, because suddenly from nobody knowing you, a lot of people know you, and you want more of that, you want to maintain it also, you have to be social also, you have to look good also while doing it, you have to be politically correct also, yeah, wo. So it's bound to take a toll on you. You know, and I've realized, I think that's why so many people in this industry work out, not because they want to look like fit and hot, but really because they want to just be okay mentally. So I think that is the way to deal with it. You have to, like every job has its own, so I've been in a desk job and then I've become a freelancer, and they both have their pluses and minuses. This field is a little more demanding because of how often you are compared to others and how there's a new flavor of the month for the audience. But it's worth it, yeah. It's really nice.
May it continue to be worth it for you, Mallika. Thank you so much for that wonderful conversation, and more power to you. Here's
Thank
to
you.
seeing more of you on our screens, big and small.
Thank you. Sorry for blabbering. I go all over the place sometimes.
Absolutely. You know, China is